I thought it was odd that all the clothes and everything was still there, but that's what happens when you go to mental health.
And so you wouldn't have thought anything had gone awry?
Oh no, nothing. We've had no trouble like that at all. There was violence and, mostly bluster. But nothing actually deadly, thank God.
I mean, until now?
Until this happened.
Time is 10:59.
Yeah, it looks like it's a very, very old body.
Police called it a tragic discovery.
I'm now declaring this area a crime scene, so no one is to enter. Okay, is that clear?
Human remains hidden behind a basement wall under this apartment, tightly wrapped and partially buried for more than a decade.
In this instance, it was very clear that there was foul play involved. You don't find skeletal remains in the manner in which these were located as a regular occurrence.
Forensics revealed the body was of a young Caucasian female, size 10, brown hair, glasses. It made the news.
There's been a grim discovery of human remains at a unit block in Alderley.
Officers are right now scouring through dozens of missing persons reports.
Desperately working to determine who the person is.
And then went quiet. It was 8 months before a DNA breakthrough gave the woman back her name.
Around the middle of June last year, I was sitting on my lounge at home. I thought, I'm just going to check email. And I noticed there was an email from Queensland Police. And I wasn't sure if it was a scam. But when I read the email actually said that they were trying to contact me in relation to a matter in Queensland. And it was signed off by a homicide detective. And only a few minutes later, private number rang, and it was a detective from Queensland. And I was shaking. My teeth were chattering. And she said, "Well, a few years ago you uploaded DNA," and then the wheels started turning in my head. And I went, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, we've had a match to our homicide victim with one of the people whose profiles you manage." The conversation was all, to be honest, it was a bit of a blur. I was shocked.
Within weeks, police confirmed Donna's auntie was a distant relative, a forensic clue. It became part of a vast family tree, which led investigators to the victim's father.
Today, I am pleased to report that we can put a name and a face to this tragic discovery. The woman, as you now know, has been identified as Tanya Lee Glover, Glover.
These grainy images are the only photos of Tanya Glover, who was 38 years old when she was last seen in August 2009.
She has a job capacity assessment where we know that she presents in person, we know that she has a conversation. Then thereafter we know of a few medical appointments that we believe she attends to. And then we believe that she met foul play, was murdered on or about 18th or 19th of January 2010.
We didn't know Tanya, we don't know Tanya's family. Knowing that she had been laying behind a wall, deceased for more than a decade, no one knew who she was, no one knew she was missing, let alone murdered. It was hard for us because we felt a connection to her.
But Tanya wasn't well connected. A Facebook account and an archived profile on the meetup site High Five are the only traces we could find of Tanya's digital footprint. Her last activity from May 2009. No one at the unit complex where Tanya was found seemed to know her. No missing persons report had ever been filed. We searched for information about who Tanya was and what her life had looked like.
The number you have dialed is not in service. The number you have dialed is
After dozens of unanswered calls, someone finally picked up.
Hi, my name's Raveen Hunjan. I'm a journalist at the ABC. Thanks so much. Speak soon. Bye. I just got off the phone with someone who says she lived in the same building as Tanya, and she's willing to meet me.
Tanya's last known address is in Brisbane's Fortitude Valley. It's where her neighbour, who we're calling Lee, has lived for almost 2 decades.
She used me as a go-to as to what sort of, like we've got the nuns up the road that give out food. We've got the mission on the corner that gives out food. And she wanted to know where the food we could get for nothing and things like that. But after a while, that stopped.
The affordable housing block is just 5 kilometres from where Tanya's body was found. It opened in 2005 for people with high needs and disabilities. Tanya was hard of hearing, lived with vision loss and received a pension.
She had a pokey little room, but she had all that she needed in there because they've got a fridge, they've got their bathroom. The only thing they have to share is the kitchen. Over in the boarding rooms was the worst. Finding needles, baggies, all that sort of stuff. And it was just, we've only had the needle compartment things for the last 5 years that people put their needles into. And, you know, they're taken away every month and they're chock-a-block. So you can imagine what it's still like.
When Tanya disappeared more than a decade ago, the club scene of the valley would often spill over with drugs, booze and crime.
I never went out late of a night time. I was too scared to go down to the valley at all.
Lee says people off the street would often enter the complex.
It was easy back then because they didn't have the extra height on the gate and they'd be able to get onto the stairs and just do whatever they wanted upstairs. And it was just scary. I'm sorry to say, people have to know and have to have some sort of notion as to what has happened to her. When I didn't see her around as much, I thought, oh well, she's gone, didn't even let me know. I even asked the manager, he didn't even let anybody know. So I don't know what was going on at that time.
That housing manager was Peter Bell.
I was a property manager from 2006 to 2012. My main tasks there were taking care of rent arrears and filling vacancies that came across. In those days, it was Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. There's a lot of alcohol abuse and drug abuse there, you can't deny that. And there was plenty of complaints and squabbles between tenants. And I was there for, to mediate, I guess, between all that. That's how I went bald. Tanya wasn't one of those, though. She was lovely. She was sight impaired, hearing impaired, and a little bit slow. But she was lovely and she had a beautiful smile. And I do remember her not being there for a long time.
Like Peter, Tanya's family never reported her missing. Police say her parents had lost all contact and her mother didn't know where her daughter lived.
If they had concerns, it might have presented differently, but at the time they simply suggested that it wasn't unusual for her to not hear from Tanya for an extended period of time. She had maybe a couple of friends but wasn't overly social. We can see that we don't believe her to use drugs or alcohol. She held a job prior to moving to Queensland. She travelled.
Why didn't her disappearance alarm you?
Because a lot of people went off to mental health and things like that, or community care, but or hospital a lot of times too. And her rent was being paid. And then after, I remember when I was doing the inspection once, I was just in the room thinking, where is she? Or I thought that, but you sort of don't notice it when you're in the office and day to day and everything's happening. But it just certainly never entered my head that anything bad would happen to her.
And so what happened when she didn't come back?
When she didn't come back, according to the RTA rules, we can take their bond if they owe any rent, which she didn't, I don't think, and take the bond and relet the room and clean out her belongings and store them safely for a few months in case she turned up again.
I think it's absolutely, what's the word, depersonalising everything. You cannot just empty a room, not have any thought for the person that was in there. And I'm thinking, why didn't you do something about it?
If we told the police about everyone that left at that time, we'd be swamped with, police. There's too many of them, really, to do that with. I'm not a mental health worker. I'm a property manager.
The complex is run by Brisbane Housing Company, a not-for-profit jointly owned by the Queensland Government and Brisbane City Council. The company declined 730's interview requests, but said sometimes there are no obvious signs a resident has left, adding any suspicious circumstances would be reported to police. The written statement acknowledged that some residents have complex needs, including substance abuse.
How did she just drop off the face of the earth and not one single person, whether it be people she lived in a unit complex with, people that she'd shopped with, Medicare, banks, Centrelink, how do they not know that a person is missing? How?
The block where police found Tanya's body is also run by the same housing provider. Peter says he followed his employer's procedures at the time and recalls trying to ring Tanya's mother.
Do you think that those checks and balances are sufficient?
Well, I guess I can't think of any better alternative unless they become institutionalised again. But like I said, not the people there wouldn't want that, for starters. They like their independence, and that's the way we do it, and that's the same as every other community housing provider in Queensland.
In Tanya's case, I wish somebody would either come forward, get the guilts up, and come forward and admit they've done something to her, or they actually figure out who's done it to her. I pray for that every night. The poor woman should be allowed to rest in peace, because she wasn't getting any rest when she was alive.
You can read the full statement from Brisbane Housing Company on our website. And if you have more information about this story, email 7.30@abc.net.au. That's 7.30@abc.net.au.